Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. And today I wanted to specifically talk about a few of the issues which are important, or it is resurfacing, if I may say so. One of them is Wuhan virus, coronavirus, call it by any name. And it is now, we know a couple of things very clear, that millions of people have died, economies are shattered, lives have changed, lifestyle has changed. That is the net effect of the coronavirus, COVID-19. The other part also is that we have vaccines available. We know the devil now. We know what to do to protect ourselves against that. But what is important is that it is emerging in other forms. Delta, the third wave, somebody said another strain, somebody said another strain. Are we really safe today? But taking a step back, I go back to the day when coronavirus was declared as a pandemic. That was a time I had Dr. Rakesh Sharma with me in the studios of ITV talking about it in a very serious manner, in which we came to a conclusion based on our intelligence, conversation, facts, and whatever we were able to discern from unavailable information, but by witnessing that Wuhan virus was not, it did not look like emanating from a bat or it was something more to it. We also were aware of the fact that Mr. Fauci, Dr. Fauci, was not conveying full extent of information that he knew he was not sharing with the people. Today, we know that WHO played a critical role in dissemination of information. We know that. Today, Dr. Tedros, the Director General of World Health Organization, he made a statement that the World Health Organization vows to correct the unintended errors discovered in its joint report with China regarding origins of COVID-19. It has also referred to the proposed mistakes, casting doubt on the accuracy of the report, and questions abound over how the errors were made and if there are further inaccuracies. And the fact that the virus did not come from the lab, that was a misnomer. This is a very serious admission of truth. The WHO actually acknowledges that it made unintended errors. The question is, what were those unintended errors? The what important part is also, where was the virus? There were two areas which are very important. The sequence of the virus was changed in the report, and will also clarify that the first family cluster was not linked to the Huanan seafood market in Wuhan. These are very, very serious and very important discoveries or admissions by none else than Dr. Tedros of World Health Organization. We are revisiting the issue with the same doctor, Rakesh Sharma. You are welcome to the show, Rakesh.
Thank you.
Go ahead, make my day. Very proud, not happy, very proud and can't be happy that we were right in our assessment of things as many months ago. The fact that the entire thing was played upon on unsuspecting people, and what we know now, Dr. Fauci did a great disservice to humanity. I would, if I were him, I would quit. One of my responsibility and probably retire working in Wuhan labs. Your thoughts?
Uh, Thanks for the invitation. And we have been fighting this virus since actually February 2020 in US. As we all know, it's called SARS-CoV-2 or severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, because there was a SARS disease before this one. So that's why it has been given number 2. There has been a lot of controversy, confusion, guesswork, whether this really came from the bat. Perhaps originally it started from the bat, but it was manipulated in the lab. And there's a paper, a scientific journal that is going to publish an article. And this scientific journal is called Quarterly Review of Biophysics Diseases. Paper has already been submitted to the journal, but it has to be peer reviewed, in which 2 scientists have shown beyond any reasonable doubt that this SARS-CoV-2 does not have any natural ancestor. So that means this was manipulated in the lab, which we all know is Wuhan lab in China. So that has not been proven so far, but I think this article will shed some light and will prove that since it has no natural ancestor, so you really cannot blame some virus taken out of the bat. Anyway, given that information, the bad part is that more than 4 million people worldwide have died from this virus. And when we say more than 4 million, these are the official numbers. As we all know, a lot of countries don't give the right number, whether it's China, Russia, India, or other countries. They always give you smaller number as compared to the accurate, either because they don't have the data, or governments don't want to show that many people have died in their countries, because they have to show that they were prepared to fight the disease. So I think the number is underestimated. In US alone, we have more than 600,000 deaths from coronavirus. And the bad part is although each death cannot be put into any financial number, but the countries, a lot of countries have suffered financially so much. I don't know, it may take a lot of years to catch up on what they have already lost. As we know, waves have come at different times. In US, according to one paper, they have classified 3 waves already. First one from March through end of May. Second wave started from June 1st to end of August, and third wave started in September 2020, went up to January or so. So they think the next wave is going to be 4th wave of coronavirus in US. Some people may call the next wave as 3rd wave, depending on how we all classify it. In UK, we have already seen 3 waves, and third one has been extended to end of July or so. And India, as we all know, suffered a lot in the last 2-3 months. Now, can another wave hit US? I'm sure we'll have some bump because of different variants of coronavirus 19, if you want to call that way. Now you have UK variant, you have Delta variant. So these are much more easily transmissible. Although the good part is the hospitalization will go down because a lot more people have been vaccinated in United States. If I can take a guess, it's perhaps between 55 to 60% of US adult population has already been vaccinated. And as we know, recently the vaccine was approved for people over the age of 12, and under 12, we are not vaccinating people yet, but I'm sure sooner or later it will be. But the good thing is younger people uh, may get infection, but they don't get that sick. So death rate is much lower under the age of 20. In fact, recently in the last month or so, about 45 to 50% cases have been in people under the age of 29 years. So it means it's infecting younger people at much more numbers than before. But the good thing is it's not deadly in that age group, thank God. Um, Other thing that Maryland gave data from last month, where 95% people who were hospitalized or infected were those people who were unvaccinated. So good news is that people who have been vaccinated, only 5% of them have been hospitalized. Yes, we can still get infection after vaccination, but infection won't be deadly, hopefully, and we may not need hospital admissions. But nevertheless, my personal suggestions against what politicians have been saying is, even if you have been vaccinated, please use mask. Don't go out in public places without face mask, because vaccination does not mean zero risk of infection. If new variants are coming, protect yourself.
That's very true, because I experienced that myself a few days ago when I went to Stop and Shop, and I was wearing my mask and I was going to the pharmacy to pick up something or whatever I was going to be there. And I saw a whole bunch of people not wearing the mask. So I was wondering what happened. And I went to the pharmacy and I asked them, has the rule about masks changed? And he said that there has been relaxation made, that people who have had double vaccine and they have taken, they need not wear. And so I was not aware of that. It was relaxed in June itself sometime, I believe. And restaurants are now functioning fully, but it is important, as you rightly said, to exercise your own self-restraint. वो कहते हैं ना हिंदी में, दादागिरी करने की जरूरत नहीं है. This is
That's
not
right.
something that you want to try your luck. And I always tell, some people, there is a doctor from in Long Island. He smokes a lot, and people, his doctor colleagues, friends, and everybody was telling him, don't smoke so much. So he was saying that जब मरना होगा मरेंगे देखेंगे क्या होता है. But it so happened that another doctor friend of mine had hosted a famous palm reader and astrologer from India. And a huge number of people were present there, or not huge, 30, 40 people the doctor had invited. I was also one of them. वो देखिए वो कितना सही prediction करता है. So that astrologer palmist told this guy who is a smoker कि आपकी उम्र बहुत लंबी है. So he came back beaming out of the room saying that I can smoke, I have a long life. So I told him that, listen, you have a long life, but what's the quality of life is important.
Yeah.
Just because I have a long lifeline in my hand doesn't mean I test the veracity of that line by standing in front of a running train. I may survive, but what kind of a survival will that be? So that's what we have to think about. This virus is not something that you take lightly. And because it was tested on human mice, I was the first time I heard that phrase. It was tested on human mice. Therefore, the spread is more. As it has no ancestry, this is the first generation. And there are many mutations to that. And I think that's the reason why Dr. Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General of the United States, made an impassioned plea on Thursday on the TV saying that he had lost 10 family members. I was horrified to hear that. And he said that the vaccine misinformation is the biggest challenge right now. And he was telling that the social media has to act more responsibly in this regard. And he said that if people had taken preventions, is better than cure. If they had taken vaccinations, many deaths would have been averted.
Now, I just flew to Phoenix a week ago, and as we all know, there's a federal law that at the airports and in the plane, you must wear a mask.
Right.
If virus can infect you in the plane or at the airport,
Right.
virus can also infect you in the restaurant and
Yes.
other places. So
Correct.
it's not going to discriminate. And we perhaps also can point out that 4 days ago, when there was a soccer match between England and Italy in Europe, you saw thousands of people in London watching the match, and nobody was wearing masks. These were at least 30, 40,000 people.
Correct.
So UK already has a fourth wave going on, but people just sometimes don't follow the rules. And it's very interesting that someone wrote that COVID fatigue is causing people a lapse in wearing face masks, that they are so sick of wearing masks for the last 1 year or 1+ year. Now they're so fatigued. But the virus doesn't know that people are sick of wearing masks. It's going to infect you. And please, so even if you're vaccinated, you go in public place where you see a lot of people, keep the mask on. At home, it's okay. At your work, if you're sitting alone in your room or with your best friend, it's okay. But not everywhere. It's just not, and it's not safe. I went to a swimming pool supply store a couple of days ago. They had a notice on their main door saying, if you are vaccinated, you don't have to wear masks to come inside the store.
Yes, that notice is appearing on many stores now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's such a big mistake. Don't encourage people to abandon mask. Encourage people to use mask, not the other way around.
Until we are sure.
Because there are variants, although vaccine will cover most of the variants, but still you have 8 to 10% risk of getting infection. And as your vaccination period goes on from 3 months to 6 months or 9 months, your immunity level may go down.
True. Very true. And that's what the fear is, that when the flu season starts here, if you have not taken the flu vaccine, it will be difficult to determine what exactly do you have, are you suffering from? And that's a tricky time.
Yep.
So that's why it is important to be taking care of yourself. This particular virus has taught one thing for sure to people, that while the government and other agencies have their responsibility to do what they have to do, we as individuals have our own responsibility to do what we must.
Yeah.
Protect ourselves. There is no go on it. The other part, which is very important, that we know now, we know a lot about the Wuhan virus, what it does, what are the symptoms. Be cognizant. Be cognizant about it, because yes, there is a Wuhan fatigue. Mask fatigue. I'm tired. When I wear the mask, when I take my dog for a walk, and I'm wearing my glasses, it fogs all the time. It is painful. So I found a solution. I don't wear the glasses. So you have to have a compromise in life to protect yourself. This is important to do that. Rakeshji, there are many things that we know, the political element of it, but there was one statement by Dr. Birx, the scarf lady. I think she had the finest scarf in the world.
That's
I've ever
right.
seen the collection of that. She made a very pointed reference to a statement. We have a liberal approach to mortality. I have tried to understand what exactly did she mean. And I'm not asking you to have an answer or say something about it, but are you able to digest that and come to any logical sense? What does the liberal approach to a mortality mean?
Well, I'm hearing this for the first time, but I think what perhaps she means is that this mortality from COVID-19, the government or people are taking an approach which is very liberal, like well, person was old and he was sick and he died, means you have taken such a liberal approach that you are not paying too much importance to it. You should have, you should have been very emotionally disturbed by it instead of, oh, okay, virus killed this person. I would say that's what she means, that we should have been a little bit strict about mortality, not just take it, okay, 600,000 people died or 500,000 people died. So that should have been taken with a lot of anger, with lots of emotions, and not just put a number and count the numbers. That's what I would.
Maybe if we had taken serious approach, maybe we would have had a couple of 100,000 less deaths.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And before we uh, stop discussing this topic, I just want to tell your audience that if you have not taken vaccine, please go and take vaccine. I see patients in my office and about 10% or so or 15% tell me they didn't take the vaccine, and their excuse is, oh, it has not been tested enough. They don't believe in this vaccine. It was manufactured in a rush. I just want to tell the audience that this technique or process was being investigated for the last 10 years. Messenger RNA, they just didn't have a chance to produce any vaccine. So this is the first vaccine, but this was not created in a month or in a year. The scientists have been working on it for 10 years or so. So it's very well tested. And yes, everything has some side effect. And the side effect from this vaccine is so low. Please don't think twice. If you have not been vaccinated, please go and get the vaccine. Believe me, you are much better off with vaccine than without it. And you are protected at least 90% or more after taking the vaccine. And don't be over smart. Don't fight with this virus. It will come back without giving any notice.
Viewers, I would urge you to take Dr. Sharma's advice very seriously. We are not having this conversation for the fun of it. It's a serious challenge. Families are ruined. People have lost jobs because, those who have suffered the virus impact, they say it is like living in hell, as if that was their definition of hell. The point of the matter is that Dr. Sharma is not only a physician, he is frontline fighter in the war, in this virus, the fight against virus. He has managed more than 40-bed ICU, and he's the chief of medicine, and he has been on the forefront of this battle. So he knows everything right from the inception. And just so that you know, once again, I'm very proud, not happy, to have had this conversation with him just when the virus was declared as a pandemic. And we surmised that this doesn't look like a natural disaster. So it is proven right. It is proven right. There are many literature appearing on this. I would request Dr. Sharma to share that report article when it comes in the journal, the latest one that is coming here. But just be careful. Take care of yourself. Then only you can take care of others. Remember the flight instructions, safety instructions, that when the oxygen mask falls, put the mask on yourself before you help others. So in this difficult times, in these times, if you are not fit and not taking care of yourself, you are hurting somebody else's life. It could be yours, it could be your family members, or it could be anybody else. And that is something that we must take care of. Thank you, Dr. Sharma, on this subject. I think we had a very good conversation. I hope people are taking it seriously. Let's switch to another issue, which is, which is very, very dominant around the world, and at the moment, it has been an endemic problem in the world, continues to be the problem in the world, and that is the challenge of racism. And I'm saying this very with a great sadness because I'm a soccer player. I've been an avid follower of Euro soccer, Olympic soccer, and World Cups and all this. But what I saw was that when the England team lost, there were severe, ugly remarks, racist remarks that came out. The entire world of Champions League, we just concluded a couple of weeks ago, has a slogan, respect. But somewhere along the line, this racism is global. Europeans, it's not about England alone. Entire Europe is hit with the cries of racism. And in America as well, as we know, the Black Lives Matter have a justification for that, which I have said it before and I'll say it again. Because the black people did not come to America either by crossing the border as the people are doing from the South. And when the people step in the United States, they are given a lot of respect and they're allowed entry, they are taken care of, they're provided medicine, food, shelter, and everything else, including money. Those people who are coming, who are illegal or undocumented, depending on your party inclination, you call them as you like. But they broke the law and came here. They are still coming here. It's not a crisis. While the Republicans are saying it's a crisis on the border, Democrats say, no, there's no crisis. But the point is, the black people came here as slaves. And for years, until the civil rights movement restored one-on-one equality, they were considered 2/3 or 3/4 of human beings, even voting rights. So they have a justification for their anger, pent-up anger. When an incident happens, it makes them angry that it happened to me because I'm black. That is the anger, and I understand that. I do not agree with the way the movement has been hijacked by people, vested interests. But the cause is there, in my opinion. The cause, the reason is very strong. Because the slavery still remains a word that people use. I remember Mr. Biden, current president, in the last campaign, in some address that he said, he was talking against Romney and he said, they will put you in chains. Not too long ago. I mean, I'm not making this up. It has happened. So racism is a problem, and so is casteism. But casteism is a problem only in India. And there was a beautiful report, Pew Research report. I did a show here with Dr. Sinha from California University on the Pew report findings. I would urge each one of you, if you haven't watched that show, it was done last week, please go back and watch it. But that was a pretty sensational report from the Indian point of view, because we do not know what was the actual intent of Pew Research to do a survey on religious tolerance and segregation in India. What was their motive? I do not know. But they went and did a survey for 3 months. They took a very scientific approach. Pew is a very scientific organization doing religious interviews all over the surveys in the world. And they had chosen 6 religious groups in India, population-wise stratification of data. And here was the conclusion. I'm sharing with you only the conclusion because we don't have time to share all the data. I have already done it in a show last week. Please watch that. There is no caste problem in India. Over 80% people said caste is not a challenge in India. There is enough protection for everybody. Likewise, every single religious practitioner, they all opined, 80% of them, there was a high response rate, saying that we are free to practice our own faith. Free to practice our own faith. Compare that with the Western media narrative and some of the vested interests that push an agenda that India is a country of religious bigotry, where minorities are unsafe. Of course, there will be people who are unhappy. There was another very interesting data that I remember. About 20% of the people who said there is religious discrimination, while 80% are saying there is none or there is no caste. When they were asked this question, have you experienced discrimination based on caste or religion? Believe it or not, that number fell to 8%. 7 to 8% people had experience. That is a social happening. Is New York a violent city? No. But people die of gun wounds? Yes. Or accidents? Yes. But that doesn't define, that's the wrong narrative to say America is a violent country. I'm coming back to you, Dr. Sharma, with these thoughts. How do you relate to the issue of racism? What must happen? Is it because, genome research has proved that we are same, except the color of the skin is different? You are a doctor. You don't treat, I jokingly always mention to Christian and Muslims and to myself, is Hindu ulcer more livable than Islamic ulcer or Christian ulcer, or is a Christian cancer softer in its impact because it's controlled by Jesus, or Muhammad makes, or Allah makes a migraine, Islamic migraine or Islamic torture more bearable? You are a doctor. Diseases have no religion. Where does this racism thing come? And why is it so difficult to get rid of?
Are you asking me question just in medical profession or just in general life?
General life is one. And in the medical profession wise is that you are a professional group for whom religion means nothing. A patient is a patient, a disease is a disease.
That's
Whether
right.
it's Khan, Christ, or Jah, it doesn't matter. If they come with a migraine, it is the same damn thing.
Yeah, the good part is, which I'm very proud to say, that in medical profession, doctors do not discriminate.
Yes, absolutely correct.
I mean, if you are a patient with heart attack or bad pneumonia, you go to the hospital, no matter what color skin, or what race, or what religion you have, doctors will give you exactly same treatment.
Right.
That's the best part. Does racism exist? Absolutely. All over the world, and including in United States,
Right.
which is a melting pot of the world, but racism exists here every day. As you mentioned, Blacks didn't walk here on their own. They were brought. It's a transatlantic journey that they took in ships those days. They were brought here as slaves. And for a long time, they remained slaves until recently, when they have voting power and they are considered equal. On the paper, they're considered equal, but we all know that people of certain color do discriminate against people of other color. You will see a white person talking to another white person in a very nice way, but when he will talk to someone with dark skin, it's a totally different tone. And where do we fit in? We are neither white nor black. We are brown-skinned people.
No, we are naturally tan.
Yes. So we do fit in somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
This has been shown in South Africa also. When South Africa had a white government, apartheid, they had given special areas to Indians because they thought, hey, Indians are better than blacks. In USA also, the same thing goes on, which is quite bad. Because if you look at the studies, if you look at children until the age of 4 or so, they do not look at each other's skin color. A 3-year-old white child will play with the 3-year-old black child without any discrimination. So when we are born, we really don't realize these things, but later on we are taught, whether by our family members, environment, or someone else. So that's when we start to take different paths. Another bad thing in USA is people always say, African American, that guy's Indian, that guy's Chinese, which is very bad. They are already classifying you, even when you are born in US, that you are white, you are Oriental, you are Asian, you are Black, and you are brown skin. That differentiation creates the problem. Government should have been very intelligent decades ago. In France, you will never hear a French person saying he's white French and the other guy is black French. They all are French. Once you live in France and you're born in France, you're called a Frenchman, not black French or white French. I think that's what we need in United States, that people who live here should be called Americans without referring their skin color. That's the first thing that federal government should make a law instead of beating around the bush. So racism exists because we let it. People really don't want to change. They kind of, as we say, we just go with the flow. Yes, there's a lot of discrimination, and I think it should start from the top. I hope President Biden is a little more careful in putting pressure. I wish President Obama had done that thing. Him not being white should have changed this scenario years ago, but somehow he got scared. But I think one day someone will come who will say, you just cannot say African American or Chinese American or whatever. You have to call everyone American who is born here or lives here. And that's the best way to, I think, decrease racism. And as far as a caste system is concerned, it's very interesting. In India, the caste system started a long time ago. So that was mainly on the basis of occupation. As you know, Ved Vyas and Valmiki both were not upper caste. Right. They were lower caste people.
That's right.
They both wrote, each of them wrote Ramayana and Mahabharata.
That's right.
And they are being regarded as Brahmins. They were not.
They were not.
You can change your caste in India by doing certain work, a better work, and people just will not pay attention to your caste. In USA, as you know, when people came here early on, English people or so, they looked down on Italians when Italians came here in perhaps 18th and 19th century. So Italians were looked down by English people who settled first in United States. And same thing you see now, the Western Europe looks down on Eastern Europeans. So if you are from Bulgaria or Hungary, you are not as prestigious as someone from France and England. So that I call a caste system there too. So those people are also being divided, although they all are white, but they are being differentiated based on their country. Certain countries are considered better as compared to others, even if they have same white skin.
That's right.
So this caste system is not just in India, it's all over the world. If you go to Africa, you belong to a certain country, you are considered like a better black as compared to someone who's coming from...
Do you think it is the human stupidity to make a discrimination that I'm superior or somebody else is inferior?
Absolutely.
But I think racism, as I know it, is a far greater problem because you openly discriminate against the color. In the caste system, I have given my own interpretation of the caste system. You agree with it? Talk about it. If you don't agree with it, let me know how to make it better. My theory is the caste system exists in every country in the world. And I'm taking it from the Varna system of India. Occupation, right? So if everybody, whether the president or the prime minister of the country, to the lowest county level executive or a taluka in Bihar, in India, level executive who is involved in governance, who's involved in managing communities, societies, and countries, They are running the affairs of the nation. They are the modern Brahmins who are thinking, making laws, making legislations, making rules, writing books, writing texts, setting down the standards. They are the modern Brahmins. And I'm cutting across the border. They're all modern Brahmins, regardless of whatever name you have. Likewise, I call from the armed forces to the building security guard, to the bank security guard, everybody who has a likelihood of giving up his life to protect an asset and life. He runs the risk. They are the modern warriors because they took the job of protecting an asset and life around it. So if you are living in a gated community, the guy who is at the security place, he takes the first risk of being shot at for somebody to enter the compound. Or the bank security guard, they are the people who take risk. So for armed forces to down level, to the lowest level of security guard, they are all warriors. They are the modern warriors. And from Bill Gates to Ambani to everybody else who is involved in trade and commerce, they are the modern Vaishyas. Whether you were selling pan and bidi and cigarette in front of a restaurant in India or a street, they are all indulging in trade and commerce. They are the modern Vaishyas. And doctors, accountants, bankers, IT services, IT geniuses, travel agents, airline employees, we are all part of the service sector. So, Sharmaji, we are all modern Shudras because we are offering our services to somebody and in return we get paid. So this is my interpretation of the caste system. It is nothing else but a division of labor where it is important to bear in mind that it ought to be taken care of is that I don't need to tell my son that you have to be what I am. That's the wrong part. My son, your daughter, or anybody's son or daughter is free to choose his or her own life. If they compete and get into the government service, they become Brahmins. If they join Waste Management Inc., they are into the modern Shudras.
Yeah.
And there is complete transmigration of occupational boundaries being broken. That's the only way you can eliminate the caste part of it. The British ruined that in India for divide and rule game. And believe it or not, I would urge everybody to read the Pew report. If you want, let me know. I'll send you the 35-page, but just go Google. These days, every information is available literally in the palm of your hand. So just Google, check out the Pew Research report. You don't want to read 230 pages, 250 pages, but do read the 35-page executive report. Come to your own conclusion. I'm saying this simple thing that I tell my American friends, we don't have a caste problem, but you have a racism problem. So attend to your problem before you accuse us of our caste-based society. And I'm talking about the fact that any discrimination for the skin color of a person has to be banned. And Dr. Sharma gave a great suggestion that why call everybody Indian American? You don't call them British American, do you? You don't call them white American either. But you tell me Indian American, you tell people African American, why not British American? Why not German American? That I have not seen much in a conversation. So I think President must issue an executive order saying that everybody is an American who is an American citizen. Rakesh, I want to jump to a third conversation with this. It's an important conversation. I came to this country in 91. I proudly say that because I just completed 30 years. So the point which I'm trying to make is, this is not the same country I came to. That's my feeling. I feel at this point in time. I had seen America's resilience, America's coming together, doing things. It was a very, very powerful social structure. Today, I see the social structure is really fragmented. And 12 years ago, in a think tank, I think Mr. Bush was the president, and I was asked this question about Bush's presidency and how it will hurt America. I said at that time, presidents come and go. They have a 4 or 8 year term, depending on re-election victory. What is important here is that when this, and I said this 12 years ago, over 12 years ago, when Mr. Bush was the president, I said the challenge this country faces today is the extent of political correctness that has gone into our conversation, political correctness, and the sense of entitlement that has been pushed by Democratic Party for fulfilling their own political agenda. The entitlement thing is entirely Democratic Party's gameplay. And that is what is creating a divide, which you see now that the Democratic and Republican people are not even looking at each other. They are at loggerheads. And particularly, since the political system provides a leadership, they are most in conversation. There are 100 senators, 400 plus congressmen. India, of 350 million people here, India has 454 members of parliament and 270 odd Rajya Sabha members. They represent 1.3 billion people. Their behavior is an example for the people to follow. And if they are the ones who are encouraging people to break the law, what are we seeing here is a collapse of a structure. And I was so disappointed. I tweeted today, apparently, sex workers now in New York and Brooklyn and other areas are dominating the streets. It's almost shocking. You know, when I came to this country, there used to be people who would come and wash your glass and collect $2. Now people are falling over other cars, claiming injury and asking $25, give me $25, I'll go away. There is a certain amount of lawlessness has come in. This is not the America I came to. So my question here is, do you think the excessive democratic freedoms are the basic reason why democracies are feeling crushed under its own burden?
Absolutely. As we all know, democracy is not the best thing that we want, but it's perhaps the best thing that we have so far. Doesn't mean it's the best that we wish for, but it's better than dictatorship or so, or better than communistic government, but it has its own faults. And what's happening is when the societies are getting very liberal, people who are doing wrong things are not being told that they're doing wrong things, whether against the society or the country. So they are getting the free pass, and governments are trying to accommodate everyone, whether you're right or wrong, because everyone has a vote. So it's a voting power. Unfortunately, in democracy, if you have PhD or MD degree, you have one vote only, and the person who is high school dropout also has one vote equal to you.
Or whether you are Bill Gates or Warren Buffett.
Yes, so he or she may not even understand what the difference is between the two candidates, but that person has same vote as you do, and you may be the most politically intelligent person, but your vote is only one. So politicians have realized that if there are 5-10% people who are ultra intelligent, who cares about them? They only have 5 or 10% votes. Let's go with 40, 50, 60% people who are not very intelligent. They are looking for some handout, please them, and just get 50% votes. And that's what is ruining the country and the democratic process. And these free things, free lunch, giving everybody whatever they want to, whatever they want, is ruining the country, and governments are to be blamed, or the politicians are to be blamed. I think country was good until the first term of President Bill Clinton. Now, since then, after that, whatever has happened to the politicians, we are seeing that country is deteriorating, society is suffering, and there are more people who don't want to work as compared to people who think they should work hard because that's why they were born on this planet. And I'm sorry to say that something must be done in the next few years. Otherwise, society is going to collapse. There will be more people who don't want to work compared to people who want to work. And the democratic process may be the best one we have, but we can definitely make it better or much better, so that everyone is responsible for the society and for the nation, and moreover for the human race.
You are so right about that. There is one issue. Because paucity of time doesn't allow us to talk about a lot of things. But in the given time, there is one particular issue right now which has besieged the country, the dialogue. The famous issue of voter suppression by the Democratic Party and Republican agenda that every voter must have a voter ID. I am an independent, and I am of the opinion, I've seen elections in India, and I know that there was a time when I was in India as a young student or an early time working there, that there used to be booth capturing. There used to be, you go to vote and somebody has already voted in your name, right? The entire thing has been fixed in India very successfully. In the last 3, 4, 5 general elections to the parliament, 600 million plus people vote in India and they have a voter ID. The question is, what is America's challenge? What is Democratic Party's challenge of handling this issue of voter ID in a country of 350 million people? What is the real game there? It is not about voter suppression. Voter suppression is to incite people, as you rightly said. In this country right now, there is nothing you can do without an ID. You can't rent a car, you can't enter a building. Your credit card, the shopkeeper may just ask you, can I see your card? You were stopped driving, policeman will say, can I have your driver's license? I'm saying, what is the Democratic Party rules about not letting voter ID be given to everybody who is a legitimate voter? It's a privilege. It's a right of a citizen. So which citizen would not have the right to vote? Your thoughts?
I think it's more like, let's not agree to what Republicans are suggesting. It's like a good idea is coming from Republican Party, and Democrats just don't want to accept that, because tomorrow Republicans might say, hey, listen, we have been asking for it and we won. Yeah. So I don't think the fraud is that much at all. I've been voting for a long time. So I don't think there are people who will just go there and vote in someone else's name. So I think it's just one party against the other. If you have good idea and I'm your competitor, I just don't want to accept your good idea to give you any credit. So that's what Democrats have been doing, so that Republicans don't get any credit tomorrow saying, hey, listen, we have been saying this and we won finally. Yes, ID should be a must. If I cannot catch a plane without showing my driver's license, why should you be allowed to vote without showing your ID? And why don't we start this process now? So if people say, I don't have ID, so please go and get one. Because if you can go and get free food stamps and free Medicaid and everything free, you have to have some kind of ID. Nobody's giving you, food stamps without ID. So for those things, you have ID, but for voting, you don't want to show ID. That's just like in India, the CAA, they're telling the people should have an ID, and a lot of Muslims who live in India, they don't want to show their paper. I mean, how can you do that? Every person has to have an ID. So I think it's not the fraud, it's just showing their weight.
Thank you very much. And in the closing, I want to thank you very much for being here. Very lively conversation. Delighted to hear your thoughts. And I hope on COVID area, people will take care of themselves before letting others take care of you. And do read the Pew Report.
I will.
Yeah, do read the Pew Report. It is pretty interesting. I'll send you that program. You watch it. I'll send you the report as well.
Okay.
Separately. Don't have to worry about. Don't have to read it, but until I send it to you, which will
Yes.
be after the show.
So I just want to. So the last thing I want to mention again is, please protect yourself. If you are not vaccinated, go and get the vaccine. Use the face mask. War is not over.
Right.
Virus has not disappeared.
I came across a beautiful quote, and I will end this conversation today. History is littered with corpses of men and women who forgot and ignored the simple facts and truths. Just bear that in mind. With these thoughts, have a great weekend. Have a great week ahead. See you next week.